Are you ready to become awesomer? Hello everyone, my name is Umar Hamid. I'm your host on the No Limit Selling podcast, where industry leaders share their tips, strategy, and advice on how you can become better, stronger, faster. Just before we get started, I've got a question for you. Do you have a negative voice inside your head? We all do, right? I'm going to help you remove that voice in under 30 days guaranteed. Not only remove it, but transform it. So instead of the voice that sabotages you, there's one that propels you to much higher levels of performance and success. There's a link in the show notes. Click on it to find out more. All right, let's get started. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling podcast. And today we have Oleg Bortman with us today. He is the co-founder of Brokery. It sounds like bakery, but it's better because they give you a house to do the baking in. Oleg, welcome to the show.
Umar, thank you so much for having me on this beautiful Friday before a long holiday weekend.
Yeah, it's going to be great. It's like one of those few holidays that the U.S. and Canada share. Like, Canadians are trying to be overachievers, so you have Thanksgiving a month before the Americans do. So, so before we came online, you had asked me, where are you from? I said, I'm from Baltimore. I left there. And you went, found it too dangerous? But I just want to do a shout out to Baltimore. Baltimore is an amazing city, beautiful people, and they're so obsessed with neighborhoods. There's 228 neighborhoods in Baltimore. And if you go to any other city in the world and they say, where do you live? You go, hey, York Road and Northern Parkway, two major intersections. And the Baltimore people go, where is that? I don't get it. What's the name of the neighborhood? And it's like, it's Lake Walker. It's like, Lake Walker. And so community's big. And if you go to certain neighborhoods, you can get shot. But that's in any city, but a beautiful, beautiful place. And where in the world are you, Oleg?
I'm in beautiful Phoenix, Arizona. Been out here since 2007, about 15 years, and I absolutely love it now.
It's kind of a blessing of America, right? There's like so many different vibes and climates, and it's a big country, and you can decide where you want to live and easily get in the car, get on a plane, a helicopter, and just get to wherever you want to go.
Well, I don't know if I can get in a helicopter. I'm not going to afford one of those travel days, but however, yes, America is amazing. I grew up in New Jersey in the East Coast, so I'm familiar with Baltimore. It's a great place to be. The East Coast is great, but I do love Phoenix. Phoenix is definitely my home. The weather, we have sunshine like 360 days out of the year. You got mountains, hiking, biking, whatever you want to do. So I do call Phoenix my new home.
Brilliant. And one of the things, I'm not sure other countries do this, but something crazy about America is minding your own business, driving down the highway, and there's a sign, world's biggest donut or world's biggest crater. And you have to pull over and go there and eat donuts or buy souvenirs and all that hokey shit. I love it.
Yeah.
Do they have that in other countries too? Or is it just like Americana?
I think it's Americana. I was born in Ukraine, so I came over, at that time it was the Soviet Union. I came over in the late 70s. And even when I went back and visited, no one's bragging about the high-rise living style or the desolate neighborhoods. Here, I think you're right, every state, every city has to be known for something. You even go to like New Mexico and you drive by the UFO area, like, the UFO diner. Or
Area 54, yeah. So you came over from Ukraine when it was part of the Soviet Union.
That's correct.
So what was something... Let me give you an example, then I'll come back to the question. I was listening to this interview about this Holocaust survivor, and she'd gone to the camps, and she said, we still had joy there. Like there was like celebrations, and there was like all this horrible stuff going on, but there was still some joy there as well. And most people were like, no, it's horrible. It was the worst thing ever. And it was. But humans create this amazing connections. The question to you is this. What were some of the things that Americans didn't know about Ukraine that were wonderful and beautiful, even in the Soviet Union, that you were like, what did they think of Ukraine back then? And what were they missing that you could say, hey, wait a minute, there was some magic there as well?
Yeah, it's interesting. As I came over, I was a little kid. I was about 3.5 years old. And actually 2 days ago, August 31st was when we landed in America. In New Jersey. So it's 43 years ago. My mom sent me a text and I was like, she types in 43. I'm like, Mom, I'm 46.
But you don't look a day over 43, honey.
That's right. And she's like, no, we came over here 43 years ago. What I loved about the Ukrainian culture is really they're like glue. They stick together through thick and thin, and they don't forget.
Meaning?
So meaning like in America, our attention span is 7 seconds. Like, a car deal, a car makes a bad car and all these people get in bad accidents 3 years ago. 3 weeks later, their stock is through the roof. Everyone forgot about it.
Yeah.
The culture in the Soviet Union, Ukraine, if you hurt my neighbor 300 years ago, my great-grandfather told my grandfather, told my parents.
It's in the list in the book. I wrote it down.
Yeah. So they might forgive you a little bit, but they won't ever forget because they don't want history to repeat itself.
Yeah.
And I think that talks a lot about culture. Obviously, the disaster but that culture, the neighborhood, like you could go. Everyone lived in like high rises in that area they call ghettos. The ghettos are just high rise apartments. Yeah. There's 30 stories high and there's 3,000 people and everybody lives together. You can go to work and your neighbor will watch your kid for you. And everyone's
fine with it. Yeah,
totally. Like when we came here and I got married, my wife is from Phoenix, and she's like, "Oh, tell me, about this person." I'm like, "Oh, that's my cousin." She's like, "You don't have 82 cousins."
Yes, I do.
Right? It's just a style of a culture that is just absolutely amazing in different parts of the world.
You know what's kind of interesting is this is probably true in India too, but in Pakistan, you have your mom, and then she has a sister. There's a different title for a younger sister and an older sister. So it's not just aunts. They've got a specific title. Same thing for her brothers, and different names for your father's sisters, older and younger, and brothers. So the relationships, when you say this is my mamu, somebody else understands, oh, father's side, older brother. Which I probably got it wrong. So don't send me any hate mail, Pakistanis. So let's talk about how your Ukrainian heritage informed you as a businessman, you as a realtor, you as an investor. How did that change how you showed up in life?
Yeah. So and it did. I mean, we came over as Jewish immigrants in 1979. The borders closed in 80. So we literally landed in August. If we wanted to come in January, we weren't coming to America. So my parents gave everything up. We didn't have a lot, but to give up, even a little bit was a lot for them. We didn't have the language. My mom was 30. My dad was 42. My sister is about 3 years older than me. No English. We were sponsored out here. So we only knew hard work, character, and to work harder than the next person. That's the only way you survive. And definitely you got to learn how to hustle. You got to figure out how to put bread on your table, so we're used to working 12, 14, 16-hour days. That's just how the culture is. You're out there hustling, meeting your neighbors. So I grew up, went to public schools, got a degree in bio pre-med, went to college, because every immigrant, especially Jewish immigrants, the kid is a doctor or a lawyer. Those are my only two options, right? So you can understand.
So are you saying that Will Smith is a Ukrainian Jew? Because one of the things he talks about is there's better actors than me, but no one's going to outwork me. Mm-hmm. And he means and he believes it. So maybe he is a Jewish Ukrainian guy. I don't know.
He could be. It's funny. We just did a 23andMe, and this is a question I'll throw out there. It's kind of out there, or one of those DNA tests. And I came back as 100% European Jew.
Right.
How can they tell by my blood that I'm Jewish? Like they don't know, Muslim, Catholic.
Yeah.
So Will Smith could be a Ukrainian Jew for all we know. We don't know.
Isn't that amazing times where we live in, where we can actually find lost siblings that we didn't know even existed with this kind of technology?
Amazing. So we landed here in New Jersey, and instantly my mom got a job. My dad got a job. Not speaking the language. My dad was a sheet metal mechanic. We'd go to work at 6 o'clock in the morning, come back at 5 or 6 at night. My mom she was a seamstress. She didn't know how to sew in Soviet Union at the time, but she learned because she had to figure out how to put bread on the table. So work ethic is, I think it's in her blood. You don't have a choice. As an immigrant, you come here, you're going to outwork everybody. So you add that plus the opportunities, just that knowing that if you work harder than your neighbor, you will actually make more money than your neighbor.
Yes.
In Soviet Union, Ukraine at that time, you could work harder than the other 3,000 neighbors, and you're all getting paid the same. Whatever the government says, here's your check for $500, subsidized housing, we all pay the same for electric bills. It doesn't matter if you're a doctor, teacher, you might make an extra $5 a month, but we're all making the same.
Well, that's proven not to work so well.
Oh, 100%.
So right now you're a co-founder at the Brokery. And why did you call it the Brokery? That's actually a kick-ass amazing name. I really like it a lot. It kind of makes it more approachable.
Thank you. Yeah. So my business partner Tucker, he's the brains behind the marketing and design. I'm more of the social bunny, the sales guy. So we were looking at rebranding. We bought out our broker in 2017. Her name was very niche. So we started, Tucker, he's brilliant when it comes to marketing. So he comes up with all these names, and then he comes up with the word the brokery. And I was like, and I always want to know about the story behind the name.
Right.
So if you look at the story of the brokery back in the day when people started going from the east to the west, every little town that had a real estate office, when the cowboys were going across looking for gold, that real estate office was called the brokery. So that's where
interesting. So yeah, it's got a good heritage.
Yes. So that's where real estate was traded, was at the brokery. So when he said it, I was like, oh my God, it just like I got, it resonated with me. I'm like, this is amazing. It's open to all. Anybody can come in as you would please. And you could have a luxury home. You could have any style home, any price point.
Mm-hmm.
But the story of the brokery is what resonated, and that's why the name stuck.
Brilliant. So how many agents do you have in your brokerage?
So right now we have about 40 agents. We have 3 offices. We just bought our first one in Scottsdale. We're renovating that as well. So we're expanding into our 4th. And it's a great time. People are like, oh my God, the market, the pandemic, all this stuff. In the middle of the pandemic, we bought our 3rd office 2 years ago. Now we're expanding into our 4th. What's the great thing about America, and we talk about limitless sales, is every day is an opportunity for somebody to grow.
Yeah.
I don't care about cycles. I'm not here to buy a lot. I mean, if I could buy a lottery ticket and win $1 billion on Mega Millions, it'd be great. But I'm the long-term play. So every day there's always an opportunity. If you have a business plan and a business structure, there's always an opportunity for 5, 10, 30 years from now growth. So that's why we're still buying in a market that's so crazy all over the place.
Brilliant. So what do you do to make your agents fearless, bolder, more confident?
Yeah. So coaching and mentoring is one of the key things. So I was in pharmaceuticals for over 15 years. I've been in a lot in sales, probably about 25 years. My mom would say I've been in sales since I was born. I always sold her on something. So
I bet.
So I might have 40 plus years of sales. So I'm a huge believer in education and sharing successes. So we do a lot of coaching and mentoring. We do a lot of one-on-one business coaching here. Everyone has a business plan. Real estate's one of those things. In Arizona, if you want to be a realtor, you can go take a 9-day crash course and take the state test, fingerprints, and be licensed within 3 weeks.
Wow.
Right? It's crazy. And then also you're like an advisor, a consultant, like for somebody for $4 million house or $50,000, you don't even know how to write a contract, but you could be licensed. So, and then people see it on TV, $1 million listings, the Sunset one. I don't watch. It looks
so easy.
So easy. And they show the potential commissions of $300,000 or $80,000, but that's not the reality. So I do a lot of business coaching and business training here. So when you make that check for $50,000, $5,000, or $300,000, you don't go buy a Ferrari.
Oh yeah.
When the check hasn't cracked, it hasn't even cashed yet. So we're very big on how to plan for 3, 5, 10, 30-year business.
You know what's kind of interesting is Mark Wahlberg, the actor.
Yes.
He used to be Marky Mark's the rap singer.
Yes.
And they did this TV show called Entourage. I'm not sure if you saw it.
Loved it. One of my favorites of all times on HBO.
Which I love that. But he was on an interview saying, when he was like a rapper, he'd get like a really big fat check and they'd go buy a Lamborghini and not have enough money for the insurance. And he said, you know what? I always had this mentality, more money's coming. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
He would just spend like a maniac. And then he got a lot smarter later. But so let's talk about this, Oleg. They could be in your single days. They could have been like somebody super attractive in a bar that you went, oh my God, I got to meet that person. And you could have somebody else that you want to meet that could be attractive or not, but it's just like, I want to be friends with them. And that person that you want to be friends with, you go up and say, hey, I'm Oleg, and have just a great conversation and make friends. But if it was somebody that you really wanted and it was a romantic thing, there's the likelihood that you go, hi, my name's, because it would change the dynamics of it. And so people have issues around, we'll call it sex. Another area is money. Yep. It's like, I want that $300,000 commission, but sometimes when they get it, they make dumb decisions, not because they're idiots, because they feel uncomfortable with that much money. Totally. So the relationship with money is really important. So how do you help agents that you have, don't name names, that you can see, that person has some money issues. Like they're smart, they're intelligent, they do what they want, but they've got this like scarcity mentality or issues like that. If you've come across that in the past, how did you handle it?
It's a great question. I do come across it quite a bit. We get agents that are coming over to us with a lot of debt, right? We call them the $30,000 millionaire. They get their BMW, they drive around in Scottsdale, and they make, $60,000, $70,000 a year. And so they come over, their credit cards at $20,000. They're like, oh my God, I need this transaction. So they're running around all over the place trying to get it. So what I try to do is we sit down, and as we create their business plan, we first and foremost sit down, and not all agents are open to it. Some people are like, yes, Oleg, I need help. I'm a financial disaster when I get money. And some are like, oh, I'm not going to tell you my situation. Those that are open
cards to my best. You're not seeing these cards.
Totally right. Those that are open to it, we sit down and say, okay, let's start from the basics. How much is your rent? How much is your, so we literally
what's your nut? That's
right. Right. We call it like what we call it the BAM, bare minimum of what you need to make to survive. The A stands for something else, but B, you know what it stands for. So, and I don't know if I'm allowed to use those words, so I don't want to get you and me in trouble on the air.
Of course not.
So we sit down, and some agents literally come in and they think they're like, oh, my overhead is $1,000, but they're actually spending $4,500 a month. And I'm like, well,
pause right there. Yeah. So that is a perfect example of beliefs around money, where if they just did simple arithmetic, they'd know, but they deluded themselves. That's just $1,000 a month. And they really believe it. That's right. So it's amazing, that capacity for self-delusion. And we all have blinders in different areas of our life. And people that are going, how could somebody do that? And it's like, well, let me ask you about your life and where you have your blinders. But anyway, please go on. It just astounds me how we can delude ourselves.
It's amazing. So we sit down and we talk about it, because they're like, oh, you go out. I'm single. I go on a Friday. I said, how much is your average built bar tab? Oh, well, I buy a round. I didn't ask how many rounds you buy. And then they start looking at the credit cards, like, oh my God, I spent $5,000, $4,000. I said, well, that's why you're in debt for $25,000. I said, and by the end of the year, the rate you're going, you're going to be in debt $50,000. It's just going to get. So we started figuring out, like, do you need this? Do you need that? They started cutting things out. I said, or you don't have to be a penny pincher. You could just go out and work hard. You work 1 day a week. I do 2 open houses, and you expect to make 300,000. I said, I'll work for you. You pay me 300 grand. I'll work 2 days a week like you do and expect to make 300,000. They're like, well, I won't pay you that much. Of course not. So then it's, they don't have the self-motivation or the self-accountability to get up every day like you or I and go work 12 or 14 hours. It wasn't instilled in them. So then we start saying, all right, you want to spend $5,000 a month. You need to sell X amount at 3% commission minus the co-broke for the house. This is what you have to do. And then we start working backwards. Like, okay, so if you work, you talked about the bar. This is the same. I do this scenario all the time. When I was younger and single, just math, just regular numbers. If I went up to 10 girls and I never looked good, I would get at least, even if I was awful at sales, I would get one number. Yeah, wow. One, right? 10%. So that's what we would just start working backwards. Like, if you want to close X amount, you need to meet 30 people this month. And in sales, you'll close 3 of them. And that's how we start doing one at a time. So we first figure out what their overhead is. And then we figure out, don't tell me you want to make 300,000. Are you now willing to work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day to make that money? And if you are, we then start, after 45, 60 days, they get one deal in the contract, a second, a third. And now the big check comes in, right? So now they get a check for $40,000, $50,000. And they're working for 3 months. And they're like, oh my God, I'm going to upgrade my car. I'm like, no. This is the business plan you and I sat down and you signed off on. Your first thing you got to pay is your credit card because it's 14% interest, and your car.
If you're lucky, if it's 14%, but yeah.
Right. Yeah. It could be 22%.
Yeah.
I said, and your car is at 299. So first, we agreed. This is what you signed it. You're going to start paying this off. You cannot buy a new car until all of this is paid off, and then you have 6 months of savings in your bank account. Now you're starting to get financial freedom, and that's what I do with so many agents here, one at a time. And now, then a year and a half later, they finally buy a house. Their whole life changes.
So two things there. Number one, you could see somebody that's struggling. They're earning $70,000 a year. They're in debt. Credit cards off the charts. And then they start earning $200,000 a year. Most people will just have a higher quality of life and still be in debt. Totally. Unless they got 100%. Discipline like what you're describing. And here's something that's kind of sobering. So, Oleg, I want you to do this if you're brave enough to do it. Next time you're in the downtown streets of, which city is it?
Phoenix,
and you see a homeless person, go up and look at their cup. And if they have $10 in their cup, you can give them a big hug and say, congratulations, you're richer than 25% of all Americans. Because there are people with a much higher standard of living, but if you take a look at the debt they have versus what it's worth, they're in negative territory. And a homeless person with $10 is richer than 25% of all Americans, which is just shocking.
Shocking. And I believe it. You're 100% right. It's unbelievable.
Can you tell my wife that I'm 100% right? That happened.
Give me her phone number. I'll text her right now.
Yeah. So, Oleg, you seem like a really smart guy and care for your agents. In order for you to be relevant, I suspect that you are always learning and getting better at what you do. So what are some of the areas that you've improved in the past, and what are you looking to improve now to be better, stronger, faster, Oleg?
Yeah. So I it's interesting. I feel like I have evolved, at least on the global scale of how global noise and global economics impacts us as American, and we also have sub-markets. Yeah, for sure. So obviously the strength of a dollar or the weakness of a dollar, what's going on in New York actually does not transpose to what happens here in Phoenix. So I'm very diligent on understanding population growth, migration patterns. There's submarkets, what kind of industries are crucial or moving to our area. So living in Phoenix, when we came back here, my wife is from here in 2007. Phoenix is primarily driven by vacationers, people like to golf, resorts, and real estate. Those were that was the industry. So right. If real estate went down or tourism went down, we were screwed. In the last 8 to 10 years, we've gotten so many chip companies coming out here or expanding. Mm-hmm. So what does that mean? Like State Farm obviously is an insurance, but they bought out all of Tempe, and they brought like 1,500 high-paying executives.
Right.
Well, high-paying executive makes 6-figure jobs. That gives them stability in the market. Intel is doing a $20 billion expansion with a B. You know how many jobs and houses and money's coming? Taiwanese semiconductors coming here, $12 billion. So as I understand the economics of even the Arizona as a state, it helps me help my agents when they're talking to buyers. They're like, oh, it's a bubble, another crash, and then all this noise. I heard it on this news channel or that news channel. It doesn't matter which news channel. Recession, all these fear mongering going on all the time. There's some fact to it, very little. The rest is all noise. And then you got to look at really, well, I understand it may happen in New York or California because it's been shut down for 2 years and they don't want to reopen for whatever reason. But reality is everyone's coming here.
Yep. And the market's going to be boosted up because of that.
That's exactly right. So I look at it more of a economic thing versus just what I'm hearing on a TV anymore.
You know what's kind of interesting to me is your job as a leader oftentimes is your confidence in the people that you lead allows them to leverage it and be braver. And so it's a critical element of leadership is just having that information, being grounded and being that person to lean on, which, just allows people to reach their potential.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I agree with you. If you see weakness in your leader,
yeah,
right. It's like even presidents of countries or of other countries, when the war broke out with Ukraine, America offered Zelensky a flight out. If he flew out, forget about Ukraine. It's over.
Yeah.
He's staying. Like, so you're 100% right. It's all the leader has to, but you as a leader too, I believe, and Umar, you have many more years of experience than me. The leader has to be confident and share the true knowledge. You can read through BS.
So ultimately, what leads to a really kick-ass amazing team is one, people have to trust in themselves. They have to trust in their teammates, and that's including you. They have to trust in the processes. And there needs to be a kick-ass amazing vision. And when you do that, that's where you get real power and stability. And it doesn't matter what's happening in the market. People stay true to what the vision is and the mission is. So yeah, absolutely. And I think Ukraine is an interesting example of leadership.
Yeah.
Even looking at the leadership from the US towards Ukraine, it's not where it needs to be.
Correct.
And so it's like, we're sending them money and arms and stuff, which is, absolutely needed. Like it would be all over without that. And of course, what they're doing in the country itself, just standing up and staying true to what they want to do is, have a free country.
Yes, absolutely. And I think just as human beings, there's 8 billion of us on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
We are so blessed here in America because for at least still today, we can talk about our freedoms.
Yes.
People born in other countries, you can't even speak up. You can't even leave the country.
Can't leave the country and say you can't speak up, but next week the secret police will come take you away. You'll never be seen again.
Yeah. So the freedom, and that's the thing. Like as I've gotten older, I'm very spiritual. So I believe in a higher power, the man upstairs. And I thank him every day for giving me another day here on the planet. And I think that has helped me ground myself to value time. The one thing we all have equal
is time.
And we're born equal is time. That's the only thing we're born equally is time. And so as I read more books, I have an incredible business coach that challenges me all the time. I have a great business partner. But I value my time. I have 2 kids now. My son just turned 11. My daughter's 9.5.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Beautiful wife. We just celebrated our 16-year anniversary yesterday. And I value my time. As I get older, I value time more than I did when I was younger.
Yep.
Because as I get older, I see more and more friends, life happens to them. And so somebody passes away and I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm spending now more time with those that want and have earned for me to spend time with.
Right.
And that's the freedom I get to choose who I spend time with. That's one of the key freedom options. I get to choose who I'm going to dedicate time of my day with somebody that I want to spend time with. So I'm one of the luckiest, I would say hardworking person, but I absolutely love the freedom of now to choose who I donate my time on a daily basis.
And it's a conscious decision. And one of the things I'm struggling with right now is just remembering every interaction that I have that I really need to come at it with love. And so once in a while during the day, I remember that. It's like, hey, like I was playing tennis today. And it was like, okay, as the ball's coming towards me and I'm playing this person, I need to come at this from love. And what that does is allows me to slow my game down, allows me to be better at what I'm doing and do it in a way that doesn't have ego, but it just improves my game dramatically. And so that's one of the things I'm working on right now is just making that conscious decision in every interaction. That if we were together, it doesn't mean I'd hug you and kiss you, but unless you really want. But
I am a hugger and kisser, by the way.
But how I show up for our meeting, it informs that. And if I change how I show up with the right intention, and it changes the way you show up, because you can sense, hey, here's somebody that's coming at kind of a interesting, kind way.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it.
So before we part company, Oleg, I have 3 questions for you.
Sure.
Number 1, what specific thing in your life makes you happy?
Everybody around me. So my wife makes me happy. Every day I wake up on my own and can get out of bed.
Yes.
It's already, it's
a happy day.
My day's made. My day's
nice.
Made. I created a new, I guess, motto for myself. I've always been an optimist my whole life.
Yes.
And, you always hear this saying, my cup is half full.
Yes.
We had a team meeting a few months ago, and I was like, you know what? Actually, my cup is not half full anymore. My cup is always full.
I love it.
So just waking up every day is what makes me happy.
Ah, brilliant. So I've got a friend of mine, we're having lunch, and he's talking about his wife, who's a little pessimistic, and I happen to be drinking water out of a glass, and it was, half full. And I go, is she my glass is half empty kind of girl? He says, no, there is no glass, there is no water. We're going to die of thirst kind of girl.
I'm the complete opposite. My glass is always full.
I love it.
I'm the happiest person you'll meet.
And one thing that's kind of interesting is that makes you freaking contagious, which is a blessing.
Thank you.
Number 2, what's one mind hack or technique that you'd like to share with people that would allow them to have happier, more fulfilling lives?
I think they need to do self-reflection of how fortunate they are just to be alive.
Yeah.
I've had friends that have had cancer and they beat it. We've all had a friend that had almost like a situation they would die, right? And then you see them and they're like a whole new person. Why do you have to experience it for yourself to be almost dead to experience the best part of life? If your friend tells you that happened to them, you don't have to also experience it. Like if someone invented a round tire, doesn't mean I have to go invent another one. I could just make it better. So when I get experiences like that, I would say at least a couple of times a year, self-reflects like, oh my God, another story. I am so happy. And that reboots me like, man, I really need to turn my optimism up a level.
Love that. And ask your mother if we're 2 brothers, because, that's my mindset as well. It's when people like, why do you have to wait till the near death experience to kind of go, wait a minute, why am I wasting my time here? I could be focused on X, Y, Z. And it could be starting the company or being there for your family. It's like, do so now, and why wait? And the other thing that pisses me off beyond belief is you've heard stories like this. It's dad has died and Billy and John are at the funeral and they haven't spoken in 30 years because they're both Ukrainians. That's why, because you wronged me 30 years ago. And it's like, 100%. Why does it take the death of a parent for them to go, oh my God, man, why are we doing this? It's like, let me smack you one and like just forgive and accept who people are. Totally. And here's the last question that could be the toughest. Are you ready?
I'm sitting down.
All right. What's the question I should have asked you that I did not?
What is my 3 to 5 year plan?
Hold on, Oleg. What's your 3 to 5 year plan?
So I'll try to put it in a nutshell. I'm a big fan of success all around the world. So Elon Musk has been all over the radio, obviously in the last couple of years, more than ever. And one thing that resonated with me, and I had to kind of take a step back and reflect, was Elon Musk was born in South Africa.
Yes.
At the age of 50, becomes the richest person on the planet. Of 8 billion people, becomes the richest person. He wasn't given anything. He didn't inherit oil fields, didn't inherit anything. So I'm walking around and trying to inspire my kids every day. And I'm like, this is amazing. This guy at 20 years old comes to America, gets PayPal, sells it, opens up this, then gets Tesla, all this stuff. And so as I'm walking around, I tell my kids, and I'm a believer of manifesting. Like if you got to see it to envision it to succeed it. So get to the office one day early in the morning, take out the trash. Yes, I still take out the trash at the office. I'm not too good for it. I'm walking back and I'm like, man, if he could be the richest person on the planet by the time he's 50, at the age of 50, I'm going to be a billionaire. Not sure how I'm going to get there yet. I haven't figured out the plan. However, that is now ingrained in my mind that is my next goal. So within the next 3 to 5 years, I'm going to be a billionaire. So I'm out there meeting new people, expanding my network, and having people challenge me on how I can grow my business to the next level. So my 3 to 5 year plan, which will be, and my kids remind me now, because I'm going to be 50 in 3.5 years.
Right.
Like every month, Dad, you have a month less.
Come here.
Exactly. My son's like, Dad, you got 3 years left. So that's my 3 to 5 year plan, is expand my network, work with people, find great partners. So we're partners to each other, and we can all grow together successfully and hit my first billion by the time I'm 50.
Love it. Oleg, this is the first of many conversations to come. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for being on the show. I really enjoyed our conversation, and say hi to your mom.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Have a great weekend.
If you enjoyed this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a 5-star rating. And if you're looking for more tools, go to my website at nolimitselling.com. I've got a free mind training course there that's going to teach you some insights from the world of neuro-linguistic programming, and that is the fastest way to get better results.